So, yes. So welcome once again to Which Course Expo. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker here this afternoon, Pat Nolan, aka Mr. Barry O'Hanlon from Fair City, and he has many other personas, of course, apart from just Barry O'Hanlon, but please give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
The talk about psychopaths there earlier on reminded me of a character I used to play ages ago. But anyway, how are you all doing, okay? I recognise some faces from the stand. The beautiful Sallynoggin College over there, stand. Brian is over there looking after things, if you want to say hello to Brian. I just want to, well, I'd like to find out why you're here, number one. I won't ask you individually and embarrass you, but I'm always curious of why people, well, I'm not really curious, you kind of know in a way, the draw of performing arts, the draw of standing on a stage in front of strangers, please God, getting paid for it, and performing. And what is that draw within us? They say that acting is the shy person's revenge. That most actors that you see and meet, they're actually very quiet off stage, like De Niro and some of all those guys. They actually are very laid back. They're not this mad kind of character you see in the film, and they can like exercise their demons through their acting. So, someone just asked me over there, how did I get into acting and what made me become an actor? Well, I have there's no acting tradition in the family of the Nolans or my mother's family of the Corcorans. I left school about 15, 16, maybe more 15. And I became a junior postman, and for the older people, they were the telegram boys that used to go around on the bikes. Yeah, so I did that. You remember, thanks. Before the couriers came in. And then when I was 18, I became a postman. But around when I was 17, I was in a local youth club, which I subsequently found out that Brian Murray, who is also in Fair City, started his acting career there as well. So this little St. Joseph's Youth Club up facing the Oblats there in Inchicore, and they had a play on called Philadelphia, Here I Come. I don't know if I read for it, I don't know what I did, but I got a part in that. And as I say, I was junior postman by day and then rehearsing at night. And I don't know what it was, but that just set fire is a hard thing to say, but certainly I got interested in the buzz and the excitement of performing. Now, I didn't know anything about theatre. I'd never been to a play, I don't think. I'd never been to a pantomime. The first pantomime I saw was a pantomime I did some chorus work in with Maureen Potter many years later. So there was no tradition. When I was in school in fourth year in Ballyfermot, we did a concert in fourth class. And for fifth and sixth class, you may remember this again, dark ages, they had the Lions Tea Minstrels. I could show you the little dance, but I won't embarrass myself or you. And we did that on the Patrick's Day Parade. And we sold Lions Tea for people. So, again, that's all little performances, right? And then St. Joseph's Youth Club was very important as far as a tryout to see what was all this about. I made some great friends. My next door neighbour was the director, and I still see him and I blame him for all my troubles. But I started to look at it and start reading, because I'd never read plays even before that. So it was I'm sure there's people out here that just want to give this thing a go, okay? But I mean, see, that's great and that will get you so far, but you also have to look at, I think, and as I got older, you realise that acting is a vocation. Because it's not an easy life, because again, you see the glamour on the telly, and even nowadays you see X Factor and you see all these programs, and it's like these performers, and it's just add water and stir, and all of a sudden bang, you're on Broadway or the West End and all this stuff. And that's fine for every one of those. There's hundreds of thousands of people just slogging away, touring England or doing kid shows or doing whatever, radio or doing Santa Claus or whatever they're doing to make a living. So I joined the Focus Theatre under Deirdre O'Connell. Don't know if you know her. She was a great acting teacher, and she had come from America, and she had brought the Stanislavski system to Ireland. So I started to learn about method acting, because I found that a lot of the actors that I liked, Marlon Brando and James Dean and Monty Clift, they'd all done this thing called the method. Does anyone know about method acting? Yeah? Know a bit about that? Yeah? That all came from Russia. Stanislavski at the end of the 19th century started looking at this system, and he started to talk to famous actors at the time and say, what makes you so good on stage? And he came to some basic things. That you needed relaxation, you needed concentration, and you needed some work on the imagination, and you also needed some improvisation. And a lot of his classes and a lot of his kind of books deal with him discovering these techniques. Now, some of the stuff he threw away at a later stage and said, no, you don't go down that road, you go down this road. But the Americans, they did a tour of America, and a certain amount of people were at that performance, and they started up the group theatre. So that brought the method to America. Then that leads into the group theatre being infiltrated by communists, and that's another story as well. But out of that came the Actors Studio, where Marilyn Monroe and Monty Clift, all these heads went there, and Paul Newman, Joanne Woodward. And that was an amazing system that worked for people. There was a very good woman called Geraldine Page, an actress again, married to Rip Torn. And she said that the method, it grows with you. So as your emotional life grows and as you get older, your reservoir of emotions and life experience is all within you. Now you need to tap into that. And then she says that it's like a bottomless well, that you can keep going back. Once you've trained in the method or in the Stanislavski system, you can keep going back and it will still give you nourishment. Okay? So training is a big thing. So the focus was one of my big training things there. It was cheap because it was, at the time, I also joined the Dublin Youth Theatre soon after the Joseph. So I went looking for training, and at the time there was a place called the Brendan Smith Academy. And to be honest with you, on my poor junior postman's wages, I couldn't afford it. So I saw an ad in the paper for the Dublin Youth Theatre, and I joined them. I think it was £4 a year to cover mail-out costs, and I got great training there as well, and met some great people who, again, I'm still friends with today. So that's great, this great bonding thing. But as I got more and more into it, I found that my job hardly getting in the way. When I was 18, I graduated to be a postman. So it was a 6 o'clock start, so you'd be up at 5, in at 6, finish at 9. I'd go to rehearsals at 10, get finished by 4, and then I'd have a second half then in the GPO, and I'd do some work in the GPO then, and then maybe go to a show or a rehearsal that night. So at the time, young, free and single. But what was required then, and what is required to be an actor, is the dedication and the commitment. Because if you look at it, you are self-employed. As an actor, you are self-employed. Now you have an agent who takes 10% of your money. If they send you for work and you get money, they'll get 10% of your wages. But if you don't have an agent, you have to get your CV together. You have to read scripts, you have to go to movies, you have to educate yourself if you like. You have to read books about acting, you have to get show reels together, you have to get into auditions to get onto film to make a show reel. Because your first goal I suppose is to get an agent. But again, the agents won't buy a pig in a poke. They have to see you in action, either on stage or through a show reel. So it's very important that when you are starting out, that you have and get yourself the equipment that you need to get work. I was saying to people earlier on, the acting is the easy bit. The acting, that's performance, that's what you're raring to do. It's the bits in between where you begin to question yourself and see the rejection of the actor. You've heard all the stories. Say, just give that for a second. If I'm selling you this, or that projector there, I'm selling you this, and you don't want it, great, thanks, next. As an actor, you're presenting yourself for sale or for hire. And when they say no, and it can be for whatever reason, you're too tall, you're too small, you're too whatever, you do take it personally. Because generally speaking, they won't tell you. They'll just say, look, we've decided to go. So rejection is part of the actor's life. And you kind of get an armor against that, and you realize, I'll go along. But always remember that the audition you go for, or the interview, if you want to get real life job terms, the interview you go for is better than the interview you don't go for. Because once you get the job, I find that once an actor is working and they go for an audition, that work begets work. So, you have a certain confidence when you're working. And then when you go for the next audition, generally speaking, you will be much more relaxed because you have a job. You're great. And normally then you're juggling 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. I remember doing, what did I do? I did a 6 o'clock show, an 8 o'clock show, and then late night in the Olympian. I mean, that was just mad. Now, I couldn't do it nowadays, but in those days, young and foolish, you just did it. And that's the actor's dream, to be working. When you think about it, some people stay at home, stay in bed, and actors look for work because that's where your art is. That's where all the work, all the hard work and sweat and training and all that stuff comes through, and you can put it into experience and put it on the stage in front of an audience and learn from it. And if you move on to the next show after that and hopefully get better, stuff like that. Film. There used to be a film industry here in the glory days of the 80s when there was a tax break and the place was overrun by film crews. I was on the equity executive at the time, and I knew that they didn't have enough crews to man the films that were coming in. There were so many, there were guys who were finishing on the Sunday and they were starting next film on the Monday. The directory for filmmakers in Ireland at the time was about that thick. And I saw it there recently there, and it's about that thick now. Because they've gone off to Prague, they've gone off to the Isle of Man, they've gone off whatever. There's still bits and pieces coming in. But again, a lot of the stuff that's coming in here, I believe, you'll have American actors playing Irish parts. So we're giving all the lead roles, we're giving all the best parts away to outside actors. Where until we get like the French or we get like the Australians, and we say, no, this is an Irish film, it's an Irish story, told by Irish people, made by Irish filmmakers, we'll be giving all our parts away to, it'll be just little location, it'll be Paddy Barman or Paddy Gardaí or Paddy whatever. Do you understand? So if you look at films, now there is a small thing, but again, there's always compromises where to get the money, you see. There is not an industry here that can afford to keep this, so we have to get money from France. So that's part of the deal. You have to have a French person in it. Get money from Germany, you have to have a German angle to it. So we're constantly compromising, so we will never have that industry that can support it. With what, 3.5, 4 million people? So I mean, say we're only a little island really, so I suppose maybe it's too much to expect. But anyway, we live in hope someday. But the training element I'm really interested in, because I found over the years, the stuff that I learned in the focus, I still can dip into it. I can still go back to it. Now again, people think that when you do method acting or you do training or stuff like that, that you have to be a chair or you have to be a tree or you have to be whatever, you know. Not necessarily so. It's like being a mechanic, I say, and the headlights are gone. You don't take the battery out, or you don't take the engine out, or you don't take the tires off to fix the headlights. You fix the headlights. So if you have a problem finding some sort of connection with the character, you just use what you need and you have the tools there to actually work on it. But that comes from training. Because when you were performing in 8 shows a week, say a West End run of 8 shows a week, that's quite tough. And trying to hit that mark every night. I hit those tiers at 9:15 every night. Marlon Brando, when he was in Streetcar Named Desire on Broadway for 2 years, after about a year, when he was doing the famous Stella scene, he dried up, he had no tears. So he used to put Vicks Vapor Rub on the stairs, on the handrail of the stairs on the way down. So he'd be running down the stairs kind of thing, and then kind of whatever, and then Stella. So those kind of tricks just to keep him alive, you know. I keep him kind of real anyway, so that's the whole thing. As far as the TV thing, I was in Fair City for 22 years. I went into it in 1989. I went into it for a year in my idealism, my youth, hardly 20-something. I stayed for 22 years. I had to make a call on it, a decision on it. First of all, was I learning anything? Was I being challenged every year that I signed up? And I found that the soap thing, as you know, as a viewer, it's a drug. You say, I never watched that, and then you get into it, and because of the way it's written, you get brought into the storyline, and all of a sudden you can't live without the storyline, and you have to find out, did X do la 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 to Y, or whatever, okay? So, I made a decision to stick with it, because I found that every year there was a storyline that made you feel alive, made you feel you were an actor, made you feel. Now I also tried to keep the hand in with stage work. I formed my own theatre company, and I had that going as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's a decision, it's a career choice. As I did a lot of the Fair City when there was films being made left, right and centre. And you just, once you're in a soap like that, the casting people won't go near you because they know you're tied up. They're not going to have you in, because what used to happen was actors from the soap would go in and, are you free in 2 weeks' time? And they'd say yes. Of course they'd say yes, it's a job. And then they'd get the call, and of course they were tied up. So then it left a bad taste with the kind of casting director, and they wouldn't go near you again. So that's the dual-edged sword of soap operas, in that you have work, which is fantastic. Again, you would be employed and guaranteed 15 to 20 weeks of the year. For the other 32 weeks of the year, you're left to your own devices. And if you can fit something in, and that's why I formed my own company to do that. So that's the soap thing. Again, because we're a small island, we have River Rock is what called it? What's it? Red Rock. Red Rock. We have Red Rock. And so we have TG Carr, if you speak Irish, and we have Fair City. So there's very little opportunities. Where in England, if you're in a soap, Emmerdale, you can do Coronation Street, EastEnders, The Bill, Doctors, there's much more happening. Again, it's fishes and ponds, okay? So, for any people who are out there thinking of going, how many people would like to give it a shot, acting? Yeah? Okay, yeah. I mean, give it a shot. Don't be one of those people sitting in your rocking chair when you're 70 saying, I should have done that. Life is not a rehearsal. You have one crack at it. Nowadays, in the old days, you know, and you probably know, is that you were in a job for like 40, 50 years. It's the old, there's a play called The Typists. There's a play called The Typists, and it looks at these characters coming in fresh and new into this office job typing, and without them changing makeup or whatever, they go right through till the time they're retiring when they're 65. So that used to be the old way, that you did what your father did. My father was a bread man, but I don't know why I didn't do that. Right, I helped him, but I didn't know. But you did. Nowadays, it's not. It's this free market now. We're popping around. Years ago, I did a film. I was on TG Carr last week, and my kids slagged me about it, called Taffin with Pierce Brosnan. And I remember Ray McAnally was in it. I think was he nominated after the Mission for Best Supporting Actor? And he told us, he says, in the old days, you know, people said, no, stick with I was in the post office. I retired from the post office after 10 years service. To make the big move, I got a chance to go away, and I took it. I jumped ship, and I went off to be an actor. No regrets, may I add, in all the days. But Ray McAnally was saying, nowadays, and this was the 80s, Work is so, you do that for 2 years and you do that for another year and you might do that for 6 months and do that for 3 years and you're popping from job to job. There's no such thing now, or very few anyway, of the steady number, the steady job that's going to see you up to retirement age. So why not be an actor? There's this guy, if you're interested in inspirational quotes and inspirational kind of thing, called Brian Timoney, Timoney. And he runs a method drama school in London. And he's a Scottish guy. And I signed up to his email list. And every day I get an email from him. And it's about, he's selling classes basically. But he'll say, I was watching the football yesterday. And I was watching the Dubs or whatever, whatever. And he's saying that they never give up. They stuck with it, la 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 la, and they never give up. And there's all these little gems and nuggets of wisdom. Basically, he's selling classes, and I want you to know he's selling classes, but they're also very inspirational. Like he told one about the snooker guy who won the World Snooker Championship. And he came from nowhere to win this, but he looked at his recent career and he found that he was going for every tournament he could get his hands on. So he was getting practice in, practice. And he got his way up to this very top. So, as far as training facilities, needless to say, I'm over there with the Sally Noggin at a very lovely kind of, as I call it, a springboard course. Because a lot of the people that do the course over there for the year, they feel armed with audition pieces and with CVs, and they can present themselves to the bigger schools and colleges for places. One of the girls got a place in the 2-year full-time course in the Gaiety School. I do some work in the Gaiety School as well. And again, Ireland's kind of premier kind of actors training school, I suppose, the National Theatre School. So that's an option there. The Lear Theatre, which is mixed in with RADA in London. Again, very high class, very tough to get into. What else is there? And then there's the Bull Alley course in Dublin as well, which is very good as well. And there's also then you'd come across, if you just want to dip your toe in for maybe a 6-week course or an 8-week course, there's classes out there as well with actors who pass on some of the training. But I'll just take a few questions now if anyone has any questions about kind of who, whys and wherefores of acting or why. Anybody?
Is there much difference between TV and film?
TV and film, acting-wise, well, the TV thing is a multi-camera setup, generally speaking. It's 3 cameras, so you have 1, 2, and 3. You can do it in about 45 minutes a scene. Generally take about 45 minutes. In a film, I'm flying in. In a film, you have 1 camera, so we have to set up the wide shot first. That takes 45 minutes. Then we have to move all the gear over here, do that. That's another 45 minutes. And then we move all here and we do over here. So about an hour and a half, could be 2 hours to do a little scene that you do in 45 minutes. The whole thing about soap is speed. 4 episodes a week. There's no divas in soaps because you don't have time to be diva, because they expect you there at 7 o'clock, 7:30, and you do 20 scenes in a day. And you learn off the lines. You're disciplined. That's what I love about the job. No one can learn the lines for you. You have to do it. And I use this expression: if it's to be, it's up to me. You can't blame. You can blame the audition people. You can blame whatever. I can blame. But if you don't learn the lines, if you don't come in prepped for an audition or a job interview or whatever, I advise people to do acting lessons because it's very important to help people when they go for, as I call them, real job interviews. You have a certain confidence about yourself, and you'll be prepped, and your CV, and it's really good in that sense of just communication skills. So yeah, so what I'm saying is TV is much more faster, especially the soap thing anyway. It flies along. Sorry.
Where would the best place be to find out about auditions for television?
Again, there's a lot of these kind of extras. See, in the old days, Equity looked after all the extras for everything, and then there was a European monopoly law brought in, so they had to break it out to all different groups. So there would be like stage and film, or not stage, film and TV kind of extras. That kind of stuff, you know. Some of the agents might have some information for that as well. They might be looking for certain people. But again, you need a bit of experience. They need to see that you can do something for them. What can you do for them? As far as people, I've met a few people up there, say older people, who might be a bit kind of, oh, I don't know, might be too old, the boat might have left or whatever. That's your selling point, is your age. Because young people coming out of colleges and schools are a dime a dozen. So many 20-year-olds and so many kind of, young people knocking around, where the older people is where the character is in the face, the life experience, the emotional experience. So that's always, so now don't put yourself down because you're too old or whatever. That's what you're bringing to the party. That's your selling point. As far as males and females, for the ladies, I'll say it's tougher. You have to work harder if you're a lady or you want to be an actress, because there's so few parts out there. There's the typical old typecasting kind of parts of the mother or the kind of whatever, the junkie mother or the whatever. That's where you have to work hard and shine to try, because there's so few women playwrights. The voices of women in theatre and film, it's very rare that they get this opportunity. So you can't play a lot of kind of Mickey Mouse kind of part you could do with your eyes closed. So to be challenged, you either write your own stuff, which is an idea, or else, but keep working at it. Keep working, especially for the ladies. It's really, really tough. We were talking earlier on, my friend over here was talking about musical theatre. Again, what's musical theatre here? What, maybe the pantomime in the Gaiety, pantomime in the Olympia with Jedward or something? I don't know. There's very little work. I'm working with some people at the moment in the Abbey, and like a lot of the people in it are coming from England. Irish girls, Irish fellas, coming over to England to work. They have very good voices and they can move and stuff like that. But they're coming over here because they're based in London, and that's where a lot of the work is for that profession. We don't have an industry here. We don't have the audience. Board Gas just ships the stuff in, just brings the stuff in, and it's fantastic, don't get me wrong, it's high class, quality kind of theatre, musical theatre. But there's very few Irish jobs in that, really. Do you understand? So what I'm saying to you is, this idea, which I recommend to people, if there could be a triple threat, you see that triple threat of singer, dancer and actor, you have much more strings to your bow and you can get more work, and that's the whole idea, is to be available and be ready to work. Don't panic, but you should be working all the time. That's where the vocation comes into it. And you have to eat as well, so you have to get a job, and if you're paying mortgages and paying rent, that's another thing as well. But you need to find that time for the acting, that it's not just a fly by night. Any other questions?
What do you do nowadays? Is it theatre?
I'm currently in rehearsals in the Abbey for their Dublin Theatre Festival production of Oedipus. I'm singing a lot in it, but again, I'd like to think that I'm an actor who can sing as opposed to a singer who can act. They haven't caught me out yet, so far so good. But it's still another 2 weeks to go. So it's constantly looking out, teaching. I went back to college there a few years ago. I did an MA in theatre after 40 years. So I should have done that 20 years ago. But again, it's that thing of not taking the opportunity. Being tied up with the Fair City thing as well. But that was eye-opening as well. So again, education is very important. Courses, classes, highly recommend anything you can get your hands on. We were a little bit of an island when we were, very much like a desert island, as far as like plays and acting materials. Now with the internet, you can get this fantastic stuff, and we can see a world outside of ourselves and the world outside of theatre, beyond play by the Western world or beyond Sean Casey, which is great stuff. But there's other stuff out there as well. Any other questions? Quickly, the thing with it, when you're on the stage, you are the apex of the triangle, and the energy has to go out, because you don't have mics, especially in theatre. You don't have mics, so again, it's all out. When you're on film, you are still the apex of the triangle, but the camera can come in. So you don't have to throw. So if you're doing a stage performance on film, you're in big trouble. In the old days, the Late Show used to do theatre pieces, so they'd rush the actors in off the stage after the performance in Dublin, and then they'd do a scene from the play of the Late Show, and they'd still be doing stage performances. So the voice is very stage, it's very kind of everything was very big, very kind of thing, where you need that for the TV. It's all less is more, you hear that stuff? You're working from the inside. You have the eyes, which is most important when you're doing film work, because the eyes are the windows to the soul, and the camera can go in and capture that. Look at movies, look at the close-ups. That's what the star gets, is the close-ups, because that's what's selling the selling the piece. That's quick, 2 seconds. Anybody else? I used to have my own place called the Actors Workshop in